Welcome to this Getting Started video for Dive Earth Science. This is Dr. Shorman, and I want to begin by thanking you for purchasing Dive Earth Science. This Getting Started video is important to watch as it will help you get the most out of this course. The daily course format, it's easy to follow once you get used to it, but there are a lot of features within the e-learning system to get familiar with. So let's go ahead and dive right into those. When you open Dive Earth Science, you'll be on the course homepage and you'll see a menu here on the left-hand side. And you can see a very consistent format there. There's 4 quarters to this course, and so the first quarter, everything begins with a 1.1 through 1.7, and then there's a review. Then 2.1 through 2.7 and a review, and so on. Whichever page you are on, whether it's 1.2, you'll see that open up over to the right in that window to the right, or the course home page. The contents of that page are over in the window to the right. So looking at the course home page, I'm assuming you've read all of these things. You're at the Watch the Getting Started. So the next thing after that is to print or save those files that are shown there. And so just clicking on Lab Workbook, for example, if you purchased or would like to purchase a hard copy in full color and spiral bound, you can skip this step and purchase a hard copy here. There's a link right here, and then there's instructions down here if you just want to print it on your own. Returning back, we also have a link for printable notes, a glossary, and lab kit instructions. And if your student's doing the lab hands-on with your supplies or the lab kit supplies, it's very important to follow those steps for each lab. And then this glossary, I recommend for middle school age students to use the digital flashcards, which we'll talk about in a minute, and read the definitions instead of writing everything out. Handwriting, especially in a middle school age, that can be quite tedious and may not be the most important thing right now. But you can print and save that glossary, and the student can write their definitions out from those if they want to. Now we also have some information here on how to schedule your daily work, and this course is self-paced. You have a year to complete it, and there are subscription extensions possible as well. But one thing we recommend is this timed method. Students work on science 4 to 5 days per week, no more than 45 minutes to 1 hour per day. At the end of that time, if the lesson is not completed, stop and pick up where they left off on the next day. So that's something we recommend trying, so that you're just not trying to get everything done in one day and having an exceedingly long amount of time for doing your earth science work all in one day. There's some other resources down here as well, a teacher's guide, and that has more detailed information on how the course is set up. Some of the things we'll be covering in the Getting Started are in the teacher's guide as well, and place to request grade changes, a link to ask me a question, and then a tech support contact link. Now let's look at how a typical section works and how that's set up. Let's just go to section 1.1 here, titled Science. Each lesson has 4 parts, and there's definitions, there's facts practice, a video lecture, followed by review questions. And so each one of these sections, section 1.1, for example, that has 2 lessons in it. Lesson 1.1a and 1.1b. And you can see we have it broken up into days. Of course, this is self-paced, so this is just suggested, do this on day 1, this on day 2, but we also have the timed method that you can use as well. So day 1, got some instructions there. Rules and definitions is how we start all of our courses. They start with rules and definitions, and that's designed to get you familiar with new words and terminology that you'll be using as you watch the lecture. So you can click on that, and you see these are flashcards, and this is in Quizlet, and it says click card to see the term. So you can see that is a scripture verse to memorize there, and that's Genesis 1:26. Then you can go to the next one and click it to see what the definition is, applied science, and so on. And so you can go through those flashcards. So there's different ways that you can use these flashcards to help you get through them. Probably the best way to start with, though, is to go to both here. When you're first learning those definitions, you don't know them at all yet, so you can see the definition and the term. See both of those things there. Starting with rules and definitions is a time-tested and proven method for effective learning. It's used by authors of both the most famous science book ever written, Isaac Newton's Principia, and the most famous math book ever written, Euclid's Elements. So we thought that would be a good way to do our course here in Earth Science, as well as to start with rules and definitions, a foundation to build upon as you go and then learn new things. And so as you do learn these, and every day you'll go through these for this section and you want to work on this maybe 15, 20 minutes, but as you get familiar with them, then you can go to term here and you can have the answer with a term. So you see the definition there and you try to say out loud or in your head, however you want to do it, what the term is, and then you can click it to check and see if you got it right and go to the next one. You can also go to definition, have it answer with the definition instead. And so you put extrapolate up there and you try to remember the definition. When you're finished, you can just go back to your assignment page and then you have some facts practice, some facts flashcards that you can do. And this first one here is minerals. Now, one of God's first tasks for Adam was to name the animals. In other words, God wanted Adam to know his creation really well. And one of the first things we do when we want to know a person, a plant, a rock, etc., is to know what its name is. A true naturalist is someone who wants to know God's creation as well as they can. So these facts flashcards, they're designed to help you learn the names of things like rocks and minerals, weather symbols, things like that. Most of them have a photo of something to identify, like this one does. So you can click on them and see, like this, you may know it from what it looks like, or where it says that's the state mineral of California, you might be like, oh, that's gold. And so you click and you see that that's correct and move on to the next one. And then you might be familiar with that one. If not, you can click and see what it is. So these are facts flashcards, which you will have a quiz over later, but right now you're not being graded on this at all. So you're just getting familiar with everything. So remember, just like the other flashcards, you can start by answering with both, and so you can see the term and its definition there, or the mineral and its name, however it's working. Work on this for 15 to 20 minutes. You don't need to memorize them all in one day. You'll review them daily, then take a quiz on day 4 or day 5, depending on how much is in that section. And then when finished, use the browser arrow to go back to the assignment page. And so that's all you're doing on day 1 is those rules and definitions and facts flashcards. Then on your second day, you'll review those rules and definitions and facts flashcards. So this shouldn't take as much time, maybe 10 minutes total reviewing both of those. And then you're going to watch the video lecture and take notes on that. So you click on that. If you have the printable notes, you can have that page open and be filling in those printable notes. And notice this in the lecture, I do refer to handwriting the rules and definitions, but like we said earlier, I recommend using the digital flashcards that we just went over, but maybe your parents prefer that you handwrite the definitions. You can do that. So when you're ready, you can click on that, and you can also go click on this enter full screen, and it will make that as big as your computer screen is. And I'll hit escape to make it smaller since it goes off of our display here. But you do have that option. It's not this small the whole time. You can make it full screen. So like it says right here, pause, rewind, fast forward as needed until you understand, and use those printable fill-in-the-blank notes that are found on the course home page. So you'll just be going through this and watching the lecture, taking notes, and you're not writing everything that's on that screen. And so if you're not used to taking notes, that's why it's good to use those printable fill-in-the-blank notes so that you're not thinking, oh, I have to write everything down that I see there. No, that's not what you have to do. There's no textbook that goes with this course. But we also are not trying to overdo all of your writing and have 10 pages of notes for one lecture either. So take good notes, stay attentive, be looking, if you're doing the printable notes, be looking at the next thing to fill in on those as you're watching and listening, and be listening for those things that you need to fill in on there, and take good notes. Rewind as you need to go back over something, and you'll just watch that lecture in its entirety. It's also, you can see that that's titled Lecture 1.1a, and then right after that are review questions. So these would be review questions 1.1a, and you click on that, it says Lesson 1.1a Review, and notice the grading method. It says their first attempt. So you can take this review more than once. We don't really recommend doing that unless you're studying for the quarterly review at the end of the quarter, but that would be the only time to do it. So the first attempt is the only one that is recorded, though, as a grade. And so you can just click Attempt Quiz Now. And you can see there's quiz navigation over here. You can go to any question that you want to using the quiz navigation. And you can see here underneath the question it says Response History. And so that gives you basically a play-by-play account of your performance on that individual question. And so like this first one, science is, and you say boring. Well, no, science is not boring. Boredom is a choice, but anyways, you click check and it says incorrect. And so then you click observation of the water, check, and you're just guessing at what you think it is. Now, observation of the earth. You didn't take very good notes. You have no idea what it is, so you're just guessing. And look, the response history, you see this long list starting to grow in here of your different submission types there. And it also tells you what the penalty is. Typically, a problem has one total point to it, and there's a 10% penalty each time you miss. So now this particular one, we've missed it 3 times, and so the penalty is 0.3 out of 1. So I'm going to say observation of God's creation, try that one, and correct. So got that right, and so that gives 0.7 out of 1, 70%, in other words, correct on that problem. So then I'm done with that problem. I can go to next page here and just start working on the next question. So our senses, to make observations, when our senses are limited, we use instruments. And hit check and got that correct. Now, obviously, I'm not going to go through this whole thing and give all of the answers away, but you get the idea there. And so if you get it right the first try, you get 1 out of 1, 100%, and it says what that submission was there and that it was correct. So if you were finished with this, you go to Finish Attempt, and everything is automatically saved. There's no button here that you have to press to click Save My Work that I've done so far. It's automatically saved. And if you are done, then you hit Submit All and Finish, and you have to do that twice. And all of the graded activities in here, that's what you'll do. You'll do this similar process here. Then it tells you over here in the quiz navigation which ones you did get correct and then which ones you completely missed. So obviously most of those are red since we only did 2 of them. And then it gives you a lot of information up here, more than you probably ever would want to know. Time and date that you started, the state of that activity, this one's finished, when you completed it, how long you took on it, how many points you got on it, and then it converts that to a 100-point scale. 1.7 out of 13 is 13.08% is what that score is. You can go through the response history. This is something to make note of here. This is what you don't want to see on your students' work, is a lot of submissions in the response history for an individual question, because that often means they're just trying to guess and they didn't really take good notes. A student who took good notes, they know what the answer is. They should be getting 85 to 100% on these. So if they're just guessing, though, this is what it'll look like, and that's a red flag for you that there's too much guessing going on. So it should look most of the time more like this question, where there's just 3 rows here filled out. The starting, what time you started the quiz is basically what that means, and then here what time you submitted your correct answer, and then the finish time. The finish time, notice it's the same for all of them, 1454 for this particular one. So you can see all of the ones that the student missed as well, or just did not complete, and the points there is given as well. So more than enough information that you'd probably ever want to know on each one of those. And some feedback there as well. These say, please review this week's lessons. Especially if you didn't get a passing grade. You might have noticed at the beginning it said 75% is a passing grade. So review the lessons if you didn't get a passing grade of 75% or above. Once you're done, you can click Finish Review, and that brings you back to the practice set with the option to reattempt the quiz, but you don't want to do that. And so just click back here on 1.1 Science, that page 1.1, section 1.1, and look at this real quick. Don't click this Return to Diverse Science. It gives you this weird error, but there's really nothing with that. If you click continue, it'll go to the course homepage, and then you can go to 1.1. But the best thing to do is just remember you're in section 1.1, click on that menu on the left, and that was day 2. Look at day 3. It's very similar to day 2, except it's for 1.1b. And so this video lecture is 1.1b, and so you'd watch that and take notes on that. And then you've got review questions 1.1b right there, which you would complete. Then day 4, study those facts again and complete this facts quiz here. So that is like those lesson reviews. This is a graded version of those facts flashcards, and you treat it the same way. There is a time limit on this, but these are set to highest grade, and so you can just go through them really quick, and they don't take much time at all, especially if you already know what to do on them, and it's very easy to get a good grade on these if you did the facts to start with. So I'll just go ahead and finish this one just so you can see what happens. And you can see it does have a time left on it. And notice it also, when you go to the summary page, it tells you which ones you have completed and which ones you have not. And you got to hit that submit all and finish twice. And gives you a grade again. Gives you your response history for each problem. You can see all of that there. And the feedback, if you made 100, great. If not, please try again. For facts practice, your highest score is recorded. So we click that finish review. Notice that right there, grading method is highest grade on these. Unlike first attempt on the lesson reviews, these are highest grade. So easy way to get 100 if you try again where you need to. But if you do the facts flashcards, when it's time to do this quiz, you'll get 100 the first try, right? So again, when you're done with that, you go back to 1.1, and so that day 4, there is also a video lab that day. And so watch the video and complete the lab manual activity sheet in your lab workbook. You can watch the video solutions at the end to relearn and correct your work. That's the last thing to complete in this section is the video lab. So you can watch that video lab, you can click play here, and you can go to full screen like we mentioned before. Also, notice that when you hover over that laboratory activity video, the same for the video lectures as well, you can see this picture-in-picture open up, and you can click on that and move it where you want to. You can even make it larger or smaller if you want, and you can just start playing it right there. The only problem is that you can't navigate through it when it's like this. So you're either playing and watching it or pausing it. Those are your 2 options with that. So You can do that though if you want to. I don't recommend leaving it small like this, but I'm going to just because it makes it too big to see everything on this screen all at the same time. So you hit escape to get back out of that. But anyways, you can see like a typical video lab is in the 30-minute range or so. And so you'll want to add time for pausing, rewinding as well. And something to keep in mind is that if you are doing this lab hands-on, it's going to take even longer for you to watch the lab, see how to do the experiment. That's one of the great things about this is more than just a step-by-step set of instructions. You can watch this and see how to do things, and that will increase your chances of success in doing the lab. And if you've done any cooking at all, made cookies or followed some recipe to make something, you know that when you do that the first time, sometimes that doesn't come out as well as like the second or third or fourth time. You get used to all of the different ingredients you need to get together. You've got all your temperature settings right, your timing right, everything. And so after several tries with that recipe, you're usually better at it than the first try. But when you do science labs in a class, your one try is your first try. And so sometimes it doesn't work out that great. And that's okay though. Stay humble, give it your best shot, use the video lab and watch how something is done. Watch what you need to record, how things are calculated, how things are measured. In this particular one, the water displacement method is an important thing to learn about and see how to do. So watch how that's done, then you go try it yourself, and then you record your own data. So every video lab will have data in it. It will also have places where some of the data is recorded, but then you have to make calculations or you have to make measurements off of the video lab. And so you'll want to pause and do that and record your own numbers. Then you can watch the video solutions to see if you did those correctly or not. But do your best quality that you can on the video lab, whether that's doing the experiment hands-on with your equipment or watching this and recording things and making your own calculations and things. Do your best on it. Don't go overkill on this and get stressed out if everything doesn't work out perfectly. The laboratory portion is not part of the Educadium grade. So parents and teachers, you can give a quality grade on that lab activity. Did the student put in their best effort on that? But that's it for a standard week in Dive Earth Science. And again, though, you can use that timed method. If this takes you more than a week or less than a week, that's fine. But this is a suggested way to break up your week and do each section. So when you're done with the quarter, after section 1.7 or 2.7 and so on, there's a review. And so that is covering everything in that quarter. And our high school courses, our standard high school courses, those all have quarterly exams, and those are timed exams. These Earth Science is designed for middle grades. You can make it a high school course. If you look at our teacher's guide, there's some options there for making it into a high school course. And one of those is taking this section review, giving yourself a time limit on that. But we have some recommended study tips here, and so we recommend taking a week to do this review. This is a week-long process here, reviewing lecture notes, rules, definitions, facts, practice, lab activities, and your review questions, your 1.1a review, 1.1b review, and so on. And following these steps here, when you believe you're ready, it's a 100-question review. You're going to notice that a lot of the questions are exactly the same question that you had on one of your sets of review questions, because there's a lot of facts to know about in Earth Science. So the facts don't change, right? But there's things that I want you to know about. And so this is just one more chance to prove, do you really know them or not? And you can use your lecture notes, definitions, weekly facts. You can use all of those things to help you answer these questions. Okay? But if you want to treat Dive Earth Science as a high school course, treat this review like an exam. Don't use your lecture notes, definitions, or any other outside help to do it. And so you click on that section 1 review. When you're ready, look at its attempts. There's 2 attempts allowed and the grade is averaged. So let's say you make an 80 on your first attempt. You get to see all of the answers after that, right? So study the ones you missed in particular, then go take it again. You should be able to make 100 the second try, and so the average would be a 90. And so having those 2 attempts average like that, that is a way to just give you some extra points basically on your exam for putting in that effort to just review one more time and make sure you got everything down good. And then you take it again, and that second attempt should in most situations be a 100. High schoolers try to complete the exam in 1 hour without the use of notes. Okay, well, that's a standard quarter, and all the quarters have the same format to them, and so that's basically how you do your diverse science course. And if you want to see your grades at any time, you can go to your profile up here at the top. You can go to course grades, and there they are. There's a list of all of your grades, and we did that facts practice in that review, so you can see those 2 grades right there. You can see the average of everybody. There's the average of all the students who have taken those activities. And so you get an idea of how you're doing compared to the average student who took that activity. Okay, if you want to review it, you just click on that, and there's your attempt, and you click on review, and you can go back and see what you missed and what your answers were and everything. So all of your information is saved there. Now, if you go down here all the way to the bottom of this, there's this course total, and this number you can ignore, this one you can ignore, but this percentage right there, that gives you a running average on a 100-point scale of your grade. And so, typically a 90 and above is an A, an 80 to 90 is a B, and so on. Here we consider 75 and above as passing. So you don't have to follow our grade recommendations, but that's just what we consider. Anyways, that number right there will give you your grade on a 100-point scale. You can check that anytime you want to there at the bottom of the course total. So going back to Earth Science, go here. And one last thing is this certificate of completion. Do not click or open that or try to download that until you have done everything in the course, because that will give you a grade. And you click on that, it tells you there, do not open until you're absolutely 100% certain you're finished with the course, or it'll give you the grade at that moment that you clicked on it. So you don't want to do that till the very end. Okay? Well, that's all for this getting started. Go ahead and make sure to go back to the course homepage and read or follow the instructions on the rest of the course homepage there, and take a look at anything there that you want to. God bless, and I hope the course goes great for you.